Welcome back to another week of the Let's Talk Social Innovation podcast, everybody. I hope you've had an amazing start to your week, but if not, we can kickstart that right here. I'm your host, Ian Kahende, and this week on, y'all, I have the amazing, the incredible Dr. Shallegra Moye of the University of Pittsburgh School of Education. How are we doing today?
Ooh, fantastically. I'm so excited to be here, Ian.
I definitely feel like there is some divine timing in being able to get you on the pod because we met probably about a month ago.
Yes.
And things have just moved so quickly in terms of progressing this story.
Yeah, right. I had no idea, though, when I met you that I was like sitting with royalty.
Please, you gassy too much.
Listen, no, I'm young man. I was like completely taken with you. The dopeness, the charismatic nature, all of that was coming through. And I was like, man, this young guy he is it. That was on a Friday. Tuesday night, I come to an award ceremony and I was like, wait, that's the guy I knew he was something special. So I wasn't even surprised.
Wait, if I wasn't black, I'd be blushing.
We blush. It comes in our eyes.
But anyways, y'all, on this week's episode, we're going to be touching on Dr. Moye's incredible life story, non-traditional path through college. We'll touch on her best life advice that she can pass on to everybody watching and listening. Of course, as always, we'll hit our artist spotlight. And in the second half of this week's episode, we'll be touching on the topic of financial wellness. But anyways, formalities aside, let's just get into the meat of your backstory.
Okay.
Take me from the beginning.
Ooh, from the beginning. So it's so much, but I'll keep it as tight as I can. So I'm the daughter of a teen mom. I am a foster child 2 times over, and incredibly blessed that I've had 2 foster families at 2 vastly different points in my life that were both incredible. And I know, that so often children don't get one good, nurturing, compassionate, loving foster family. And so to have 2 in one lifetime is nothing, but the Lord. My second foster family, they're my bonus family. We don't even use foster. I went to go stay with my mom when I was like 13, 14 years old, right? I'm a middle-aged woman now. That is my mom. They are my family. I'm the mother of 3. I have a 29-year-old son who's currently incarcerated. And it's sad, because he is so much like you, Ian. He's brilliant. He's charismatic. He's intelligent. He's got a fantastic sense of humor. But he also, is impatient and, what's the word I'm looking for? When you can't control your impulses, he's impulsive, right? And is unfortunately always thinks there's an easy way out, and there are no such things, no shortcuts in this life. But like I said, he's an incredible young man. He's 29. I have a daughter who is 22, who lives at home. She'll be 23 in May. She's in cosmetology school. We're really excited because she's moving to the floor of school this week. So she's going to actually get in somebody's head, baby. We are ready for this. And then my baby, my last baby is Rochelle. She's a 10th grader at City Charter High School. She'll be 16 this summer. And I cannot believe that I have a 16-year-old. And then I have swarms of other babies, my school babies, from my life as an educator, both formally, informally, traditionally, non-traditionally. And I have added undergraduate babies to the roster as a result of being here at the University of Pittsburgh and going into my second semester of teaching. And it is just incredible. One of the things, Ian, that I understand about being in this purpose, right, as an educator, as a servant leader, is that there were so many things that I didn't get that I needed as a child. Love, truly love, to be seen, to be heard, to be told and reminded of my value. And those are the very things that I get to do, not only with my own children that the Lord has blessed me, to be a steward over, but I get to do that with so many other young people. And it is one of the greatest most humbling gifts that I have been given, right? And so, in spite of, difficult circumstances, in spite of, pain, being, unsure of myself at, points in my life, it has all really, really worked out, far better than anything I've could have dreamed or imagined. I did have a relationship with my biological mother. Like I said, I was in foster care twice over. The first time as a very young child, I
Mhm.
was taken from her care. And then I lived with her for a very short spell, like when I was like 9, 10 years old. And then she was gone. Lots of things kind of happened. My biological mother, she struggled with alcohol and drug use. She had a very, very difficult and painful life too. And, she used substances, right? Relationships to kind of cope with that.
Mhm.
And so she ended up leaving town and, she was gone for over 20 years. And I mean, gone, like didn't see her, maybe heard from her. I can count, 2 or 3 times in 20 years. And right after I had my youngest daughter, she came back to Pittsburgh. We
Mhm.
had a death in the family, and it brung her back home. And she was not doing well medically. And I said to her that you need to come home. We don't have family in Texas. I mean, you've got a life that you started there, but you're not well, and you should be with your family.
Mhm.
And it was interesting, Ian, because I did not take into account all of the unresolved trauma, right, that I had as a result of having been in her care, and even having been neglected and abused and abandoned by her. And so, even though it was my suggestion that she come home, we didn't get close. And as a matter of fact, and often I avoided her at all costs, until until her illnesses really kind of came front and center.
Mhm.
And I was tasked with being her caregiver and her power of attorney and her decision maker. And initially, it was like the worst news I had heard, right? Because I had already decided that I was not going to do that.
You weren't going to get that invested.
I wasn't going to do that. Like, you didn't take care of me. Why would I take care of you?
Mhm.
And I, like I was, as the young folks would say, I was ready to stand on that. But then, D-Day came, so to speak. And, I got the call that, didn't look like she was going to make it. And I needed to come in and I needed to, make some decisions. And it was so pivotal, Ian, because I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was really sad. I was really overwhelmed and I was really confused because for as adamant as I had been about what I wouldn't do, um, I am also a compassionate person, right? I also am a believer and follower in Christ.
Mhm.
And so for me, that means that even if I want to behave in a certain way or make a certain decision, I have the Holy Spirit always inside prodding me. It may be lawful, but is that good? Is that good for my walk, for my salvation, for my peace?
Mhm.
And because I am a follower of Christ, right? I surround myself with other followers who can sharpen me, who can correct me, right? When I am not walking the talk, so to speak. And I have a very close girlfriend, that I called and I shared that news with. And she said, Shell, because people who are really close to me, they call me Shell. It used to be Shelly, but nobody even calls me Shelly anymore. It's either Shallegra or
I
Shell.
was going to say, Shelly's a throwback.
It's like, yeah, if I didn't have a necklace with my name on it, I wouldn't even be sure. But she said, Shell, the Bible tells us, the Lord has instructed us to honor our mothers and fathers so that it will go well for us. Not honor them if, not honor them when, honor them. And it was pivotal. And so, I did what I needed to do. But in that, I was given this really great gift. I ended up caring for my mother in the last probably about 9 weeks of her life, as like a primary caregiver in the nursing home, cleaning her up, making sure that, the nursing home staff were caring for her and doing what they were supposed to do. And, what I learned in is that my mother loved me. She loved me with everything she had in her. And while it was not the love that I wanted or needed or, even would have characterized as love,
It was the best she could
it
do.
was the best she had. And that is what she gave to me. And that ultimately, in what she needed to do was get me here. And she had done that. And the
Mhm.
rest was up to me. Right. And so it's now my awesome gift, right, to be able to pour into my own children in the ways
That you wish she could
that
have.
I wish my own mother could have. And also in the ways that they communicate to me that they need love, right? Because, I wasn't able to communicate with my mother, my biological mother or my bonus mother. Because, I come from an era where you don't grown folks talk, you be quiet, right? And
Mhm.
so, that really silenced me. I learned how to self-silence so early on. Um, and just really had difficulty just, communicating what I needed. And so again, with my own children, part of me loving them is listening to them, giving them space to dissent and to disagree, and to even respectfully challenge me because I don't always get it right. I don't know all the answers. Sometimes I muck it up, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm able to do that, and I practice and make all the mistakes with my own children, and so that the other children that the Lord has called me to, right, other people's children, as I lovingly call them, which is a phrase that I got from, one of my education heroes, Lisa Del Pitt, right? I'm able to be even better with other people's children because I've practiced on my own babies and they've been gracious enough to forgive me
Amen.
and still stay in relationship with me. But by the time I get here, right, and I'm in front of, students here at this university, I'm so much sharper. I'm so much more perceptive, right, on how to engage them, how to care for them, how to listen to them, how to encourage them and inspire them,
Mhm.
right, for whatever the Lord has next for them. So I think I hope I have answered kind of like the background, who I am, how I got here. Is there anything that you're like, ooh, more about that?
I
How does this
guess
go?
one question I do have is you're talking about your relationship with your biological mother, but
Mhm.
did you have a relationship with your biological father?
It's a great question, Ian. And ish, right? I'm a believer in the apostrophe ish,
Yep.
right? I knew my father's name because I seen my birth certificate when I was a very, very young girl. And so I knew his name was James Pendleton. And I would often look at that birth certificate and wonder, who this person was. I remember being in either middle school, like sixth grade. And there was a student there who had that same last name. And I just wondered and wondered and wondered, like, is that a cousin?
Mhm.
Is that a cousin? Like, I wonder if we're related, but never, having the courage to ask. And some years later, my biological mother brought him home with her from an evening of drinking, and she said, "Yeah, Shelly, there's your dad." And he was on the sofa, and he was like passed out drunk, and I don't even know if he knew what was happening around him. And then I seen him again, maybe 10 or 15 years later. I was an adult. I had my son at that time, and one of his other children. I lived in a housing project, and one of his other children lived there too. And she knew who I was before I knew who she was. And she brought him to my house one day, and she's like, "Shelly, here's Daddy." And I was like, this is this is
Something.
something.
Hmm.
Like, I think I may have been about 22, and so he was intoxicated at that point too. And it was odd, it was strange, and that was kind of that. I found out some years later that when I was married, I lived in a community here in Pittsburgh, and he lived around the corner from me, and I had no idea.
Hmm.
I had no idea. I never seen him. If I did, I didn't know it was him. I would imagine that if he seen me, he knew exactly who I was.
Hmm.
I look exactly like my biological mother. I mean, to the point where in the 20 years of her absence, I could be walking through downtown Pittsburgh and someone would say, Ruthie's daughter, like because you know what I mean. And so and then he died. So my mother died. My biological mother died in 2016. He probably died in 2019, 2020. And I have a lot of siblings from him, and one of them reached out to me and she said, Shelly, dad died, and here's when the funeral is, and you should come. And I was like, thanks for the information. And I thought about it and I sat with it, and I decided that I didn't feel like I owed him what I owed my mother. Um, and I was not convicted in my heart differently. And so I did not attend the funeral and I didn't think any more of it. Interestingly, Ian, in the last year or two, um, it was actually a community building. I always do community building in in classes that I'm teaching or workshops that I'm facilitating. And the question is, who that's like not here anymore would you want to have a conversation with? And it immediately popped to my mind that, boy, if I had that to do again, and I don't live a life of regrets because it's just not helpful or useful. But Ian, if I had that to do again, I would have gone to his wake, not the funeral, but I would have definitely gone to the wake. I would have picked up, the obituary, and I would have taken that opportunity to try to learn something about him, because what I learned after my biological mother's passing away is that that is like the permanence of death. Um, and part of, I believe, what stems from grief is the reality that whatever you didn't, you won't, you
Hmm.
can't. It's over. And so yeah, that's the story of my dad. But my grandfather, um, Reverend Melvin Heyman, he's also deceased now. He was a pastor all of his life, and he did a tremendous job of demonstrating what a daddy should be, what a father should be. And so I'm always really, really grateful. As a matter of fact, we call, even though he was our granddad, we called him Daddy. This is my foster grandfather, because he was stable, he was present, he was consistent. He had integrity, right? He served the Lord, and he gave me so many foundational things that I, in even as I'm saying this out loud, I'm just fondly remembering how grateful I was to have my grandfather
Hmm.
be a stand-in in that way. Yeah.
So I guess the last question about your backstory that I'm going to ask is, how did you come to terms with forgiving your biological
Mm.
parents for their flaws?
Uh, well, Ian, it is a far simpler answer than you might suspect. Again, I am a believer and a follower of Christ, and I talk to the Lord, and He talks to me. And the one thing I know is that I have to ask that man for forgiveness every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. Um, and his blueprint, if you will, his model for how to live a life that is pleasing and honoring to him is simple. And yet I struggle. I fall down. I mess it up. Some days, dare I say, I choose disobedience.
We all do.
Jesus, to say it out loud, Ian, that was cathartic right there, right? Because sometimes I choose disobedience, but I love my heavenly Father. I am always aware of the sacrifice that His Son has made for me to have an abundant life. And so it compels me to ask for forgiveness. And because He's a good God, a gracious and a merciful God, I anticipate that I will get what I am asking for. And it helps me be so much more forgiving of people because we can't get it right. I can't get it right. It's unrealistic. I don't really deal in fairness, as much as I do equity and justice, right? But it's not fair to expect someone to give what I know cannot be given because I am also incapable of giving it. And maybe the ways that I harm people or hurt people or disappoint people are very different than the ways that people do me. In the end, we all still need to be forgiven. We all desire to be forgiven, right? I don't believe that many of us, most of us, like want to run around being offensive and hurtful and harmful and rude and all of these other things. I think that people are not healed and have not figured out how to start their own healing journey, right? And when you are cut, you bleed for people, right? So I understand what it means to take care of my own wound, right? Understanding that you might not ever realize that they're cutting, you're bleeding on me, right? And so I'm not going to stay in that position. I'm going to do what I need to do, go to the people I need to go to, get what I need to get to so I can be whole, right? So I can be healing, which is perpetual. Because I'm called to people. And so I got to be ready. I have to be ready. And what I'm beginning to realize, right, this is a little bit early about like a life lesson that I'm called to be good to me first. And that's been a lesson that I am literally just learning and really embracing, like right here in front of you today. Because it's very easy to concentrate on the other people that I've been called to, that you've been called to, right? And it eliminates or it distracts us from having to think about where we are and what we need.
But that's really one of the hardest things you can do is to be introspective.
Yeah. And I'm an introspective person, right? And still, I had perfected this duality of being deeply introspective, deeply reflective.
But then not taking care of yourself.
Oh, baby. Oh, yep. Sis, you're not healed. You're not whole. And how are you? What do you need? How can I support you? So and so, what do you need? I love you. How can I support you?
But you don't give that same grace to yourself.
Mm-mm. Nope, 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 nope. So, yeah.
Anyways, moving forward through this first half, let's touch on your non-traditional path to getting a degree. Let's talk starting after high school. Okay. Take me through the winding path that got you where you at.
And it is circuitous. I love 50 Cent words. And so I left high school. And I remember going to high school and not receiving any support, any conversations about what comes after high school. I also remember my mom like always recognizing my brilliance, my potential, and like, Shell, you need to go to college. Shell, you need to go to college. Shell, you need to go to college. But my mother didn't have, actually, I think my mother did a semester at CCAC many moons ago, but she didn't have the wherewithal, right? And at that time, not anybody in the family did. And so it was like, okay, go to college. I don't know what that means, right? My mother actually found out about Job Corps. I didn't end up. My mother found out about Job Corps and she's like, here you go. Now you can go to college, right? And one of the things that I knew And at that time, that I didn't, tell anybody out loud, but I knew that I did not feel that I had what it took, whatever it was, to go off to college, right? I didn't believe I was smart enough. I was completely overwhelmed by the idea of being in a foreign territory and having to learn new things and all that. So I was like, mm-mm. So Job Corps CCAC, right across the bridge, check. I can do that. And Job Corps will put a couple dollars in my pocket, give me a bus pass. Oh, sign me up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started at CCAC over on the north side, Allegheny campus, and I am bright. I am intelligent. I love learning. And so like I remember going to class like and enjoying myself and like being excited about learning, but also being 17 years old. I graduated high school at 17, right?
So
And
it was very intimidating.
it wasn't even intimidating. I was lazy and shiftless. Like it wasn't intimidating. And I wanted to drink. I wanted to smoke. I wanted to kick it. I was like, no direction.
Free.
Yeah. Like, and so I kept changing my concentration like every semester. And so like I couldn't really like get anywhere. And because I was ambivalent and I ended up getting pregnant. And so the semester that I should have been graduating, because I had been at CCAC for 2 years, I instead didn't come back because I was going to go, be a mother. And so like, that was that. And so I ended up at one of these rinky-dink scam trade schools, that used to be really, really big in the 90s. They're not as big. Matter of fact, I think they're like all losing their license and closed now because they are scam. But then they were everywhere, right? And I was on public assistance. And I remember, my caseworker saying like, sis, you gotta welfare to work. Like it's time to make some choices. And I took a trip to Carlow University through some program that I was in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to college. I want to, or yeah, because it was Carlow College at that point still. I want to go to Carlow. This is going to be amazing. And so I went and, my next check in with my caseworker, I told her, and she's like, yes, sis, nope, that ship has sailed. You could go somewhere for a year and we will let you sit, and collect your benefits for like 15 months, but not college. And I was like, I was like the wind out of my sails. And I went to one of the programs and I got this certificate in health claims examining and medical billing, and started this 20-year career in managed care. Um, probably in and like I had friends who were single moms who had put themselves in college or back in college, and I was still intimidated. I still didn't believe that I had it. Right. And so like I would say things like, oh, I don't need to go to college. Oh, I don't need a degree. Like, because at that time in managed care, I made, even though I was always the least paid person in my cohort, whatever that might have been, I was still making incredibly good money. Like in 1997, I made $8.28 an hour. Like minimum wage is not $8.28 an hour in 2024, right? So I was doing all right, one would have thought. So I was like, I don't need to go to college. And then I ended up at UPMC health plan, and I had a Black woman supervisor who was very challenging. And as I found in my life that most of my Black women supervisors were. But what she said is, Shallegra, you need to go to school. You are far too bright. You are far too bright to just sit here like at this level. You need to go back to school. You work at an organization that pays for you to go to school, and you need to go to school. And after a while, I was like, okay, I still can't quite remember how I ended up at a Carlow open house. It escapes me. But Carlow was having an open house, and I was like, Carlow, that seems like so far away. Like, but I'm going to go. And I went, and like those feelings return, like this is the place. And so, I enrolled, and I did my bachelor's in 3 years, because even though I had a lot of credit from CCAC, it was like all over the place. I ended up doing 3 years at Carlo as an adult student. They have a phenomenal adult degree program. And it's not even an adult degree program. They are just very, very,
Open to non-traditionals?
yeah, yeah.
Because there's a big stigma against non-traditionals.
On a campus like this,
Mhm.
not at Carlo. Yeah, right. And so I had a great time. I remembered how much I loved learning, and not just like I love learning. I'm a curious person, but I love formal learning. I have this very um uh ugh, relationship with the academy.
Mhm.
I love her and I despise her all at the same time, right? And so I enjoyed myself. I did really well. Dean's List, like I began to understand, like my purpose. Um, and I graduated in 2008. I was 7 months pregnant with my third child, and that started this like 16-year trajectory of going through school. And so I graduated, and I ended up leaving UPMC because part of the game in corporate America is that you got to bounce around if you want to even attempt to close the salary gaps.
Mhm.
And so I rolled out, and I knew I wanted to earn a master's, though. Like I knew it. As a matter of fact, I wanted to earn a master's in social work. When I was at CCAC way back in 1992, I wanted to pursue social work. And I remember my mom saying, Shell, you can't do that.
Hmm.
You're far too sensitive.
Hmm.
Like you and I am very sensitive. I'm not sure that I could have done like CYF casework. Um, but that was where my heart was. Like I was called to children, families, right? And painful and difficult like circumstances like that. I was understanding that while the Lord didn't allow those bad things to happen to me, He was certainly using them, right, for what my ultimate, service to this world would be. But my mom was like, "You can't do that because you be crying all the time over everything, and you can't be crying while you taking care of people's casework and
Hmm.
stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, you might be right." But then, years later, I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be a social worker. I want to be a social worker." I actually wanted to be a teacher first and foremost, but then it was far too late to become a classroom teacher by this point. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, so I'll be a social worker, right? Next best thing. And the employer I worked for at the time was like, we won't pay for you to be a social worker. We won't pay for a master's in social work, but we'll pay for like a master's in healthcare administration. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I hate
Mm.
health. I can't stand managed care. Like, this is the worst. I'm sorry for those who are in it. It is lovely and wonderful for you. I found it to be one of the most difficult ways to earn a salary.
Mm. And
Um,
you spent a lifetime
20
in that
years,
position.
20 years across a number. The joke was every health insurance company and every managed care company in Western Pennsylvania, I had a desk for a number of years. And so I found this MPH, this Master of Public Health. And as I read through the course description and kind of what the projections were of what people would do who acquired this degree, it was so similar to social work that I was like, I can live with an MPH. And so at that point, I was married. Now I have three, or actually four children because I have a bonus son. When I got divorced, I gave the ex husband back, but I did keep the bonus son because he's amazing.
Mm.
And so, like, I'm a mom of four. I'm active in church. I'm active in the community. I can't go sit in anybody's classroom, even if it's an adult centered. Like I couldn't.
Mm.
So I found Capella University, online and accelerated coursework and I was like really, really into goals at that point. So I was like, okay, I need to finish this master's by my 40th birthday because by then, like my purpose was like really, really budding in me, and I felt like I had wasted so much time. So I'm like, I gotta go, go, go. I gotta get this thing done so I can get to wherever, and get going. Right. I'm running out of time. So I was like, I gotta get this master's. I gotta finish, 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 finish. So I did an accelerated program, took on more credits, like everything that I could do so that I could be done by my 40th birthday. I ended up graduating, like the course ended in May. My birthday was in February. I was like, okay, check. I kind of always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I wasn't sure what that meant. Again, I was like,
The title.
No, maybe. Yeah, Ian, maybe. But also the deep study, right? Because I knew, like, you don't just become a doctor. Like, there's some deep study. And I was like, I'm here for this. Like, if I could be a perpetual student, I would get a degree right now. I mean, because I'm reading dissertations for fun, right?
That's some nasty work.
I mean, if you're reading the right dissertation, it's a good time. Let me just say that. And so I'm like, okay. But then I was like, all right, now I got a whole lot of debt, a whole lot of debt. And so if I do a doctoral program, it's gonna have to be free because like I don't have no more money. I just can't even imagine making these student loan payments. It's I just done. 2017, I changed careers. The Lord drop kicked me off the ledge because I was like, Lord, after I first it was after, I retire, after the kids grow up, after they graduate, after they did. I was making all these negotiations with the Lord about when I was going to get in my purpose. And he was like, yeah.
That's not how it work around here.
That might be her testimony, but that is not going to be your testimony. You are going to do what I have called you here to do. And today is the day. So there you go. Right. So I was like, whoa, okay. So now I've left my job. I've left a lucrative salary, one would have thought. And I foray into public education. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm a grown woman, 2 homes, 2 mortgages, divorced, and I'm making $120 a day as a substitute teacher. Mm. But in that, I got connected with the Heinz Fellows program that used to live in the Center for Urban Education. And when I tell you the Lord's timing is impeccable, we were doing a lot of similar work. Me as a practitioner and the Heinz Fellows program in terms of seeing children, understanding the systemic and structural barriers that prevent Black children, right, in our local contexts from being able to access an education. And so we like instantly partnered. And then that turned into me being invited into the Center for Urban Education, like as a partner. And I remember, like, I do this, picture it, QCEF 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with the Golden Girls, but the oldest girl, Sophia, she said, picture it, Sicily, 1775. Picture it, QCEF 2018. And it was in the David Lawrence Hall, and Bettina Love is there. Rich Milner's there. Like, I had come across all these formational and foundational books, and that like really were changing who I was as a person and a practitioner. And I am in a room and they are there. And Ian, I just remember sitting in the audience and saying, God, I want to be I want to be part of this. I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even know what that means, but this is rich. This is real. This is something. And I want to be part of it. And so then, the urban ed EDD, was like coming into fruition. And folks from Q were reaching out to me. Hey, Shallegra, be on the lookout. It's coming. Get ready. Start getting your reference letters together. And I'm like, okay, is it going to be free? And they like, I don't know about that, but like, we need you to get ready because like you need to be in here, like you need to do it, and so what I decided, Ian, is that I talked to the Lord and I said, Lord, this is what I want. I feel like you are okay with me having this, and I need you to pay for it. I mean, I'm willing to sign my name on the promissory note, but Lord, like
We need the money.
we got to take care of this because because one of the things that is really interesting, Ian, is that even though I had employer assistance through my bachelor's and my master's for sure, because I was underpaid. I was paid well, um, relatively, like to my peers, but I was underpaid. And so oftentimes, not only was I going to school because I wanted to acquire a degree and I wanted to learn and I wanted to be better, but I also needed to access some loan money. And I also needed to be in active loan status so that I could not repay the other loans that I had already like. And so it was like the cyclical kind of thing. So I'm like, I can't do it. But for this program, this urban education EDD, I'll take that one on the chin. And I did. And again, I had some folks who the Lord sent to take care of me financially. Like I'd receive an email that I had been awarded a scholarship for this and a dean scholarship for that. And hey, Shallegra, what's the situation? Let's get you a refund on that. Um, and still, I was needing to borrow money because I'm my salary is still like way down here because I've literally started over. I have obligations, I have bills, I have things to do. But you know, it was going through that doctoral program. It was hard. I remember in at one point saying, you know what, and this was maybe about a year and a half into the program, and people were already calling me doc, 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 doc. Like once people knew that I had started this down this journey, the affirmation, the love, the support from my people. It's, doc, 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 doc. Oh, doc, when you get, I was like, you know what? The people have already declared me a doctor.
So now you got to see it through.
No, no, no. Quite the opposite, my friend. The people have declared me a doctor. I've been getting this insight, this wisdom, this practice from the Center for Urban Education at that time. I'm gonna go on Amazon and purchase me a certificate. I'm done. 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 I'm just done. There were so many things that were happening personally, professionally, academically within this institution. I was like, and I'm over six figures in debt. Done. I'm tapping out right now. And my advisor, whom I love and cherish forever and always, Lori DeLay O'Connor, she said, yeah, Schlegger, did you get it all out? Say some more. Okay. Now take some deep breaths. Let's go ahead and get off Zoom because now this is in like the midst of the pandemic. And we'll meet back up in like 20 minutes because you have to finish. You got to finish. First of all, you've come too far. You've done too much. You have to see this through. You have to see it through. And like an ornery little toddler I can sometimes be. I want to. All right. See you in 30 minutes.
Please.
Yeah, right. And I finished it. And it was incredible. And I think about all of the folks who have come behind me, not just in that urban ed EDD program, because I'm a trailblazer, right? Because that is that is what the Lord has called me. And so I think about all of these firsts that I have been able to be part of in, you know, inaugural cohort here, inaugural this there, inaugural fellow of that, right? I am a trailblazer, and I accept that and I embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the people who came into the urban ed after me because I finished the race, right? Because I did what needed to be done. And then those that were inspired to go into other doctoral journeys, like, yeah, like it's not about me. It's not about me. Like, I got to finish this because people are always on the other side waiting for me to finish, to do, to show up, to whatever, so that they pass the baton, as you will, if you will, and then they go and run their race.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so over the last 16 years, I even managed to get my bachelor's degree from CCAC. I am immensely, and people probably think I'm crazy when I tell them how proud I am of that, right? Because in some work that I was doing, like trying to develop some pathways for high schoolers to get to CCAC, and there's this stigma that, CCAC is, it's not as rigorous. It's not as, that's where the dumb kids go, all these things that are so untrue. And I know that to be true. And I remember I was talking to my colleague and I said, hey, if if you could give me an honorary degree, because I did spend 2 years here, so like if you can get me an honorary degree, I will gladly post it on my wall, because the young people love Miss Shelley, right? They listen to Miss Shelley, and I
If they
will,
see that you're proud of
baby,
CCAC,
baby,
they might go CCAC.
baby, let's get it. And she was like, honorary, sister, you say you're in a doctoral program? You've got enough credits that you have earned a what do you call it? Starts with the A, an associate's in general studies. Matter of fact, we're gonna go ahead and start your graduation paperwork, and we'll see you in April, and you can, or May, you can participate in commencement. Listen, and I left there and went right into the bookstore to go buy my garb and everything I needed, because my behind was going to walk across the stage for the CCAC graduation. And then COVID happened and it ended up being online. But we got a picture of my name when it flashed across the big screen, right? So, yeah, I even managed to pick up an associate's along the way. So, yeah, that's been this incredible education journey, all as a at the big age, at all these big ages, bachelor's at 33, master's at 40, associates at 45, and then my doctorate at 47. And here I am now, 49.
So throughout your whole journey,
Mm-hmm.
what is the biggest life lesson that you'd say you've learned?
I would say, gosh, Ian, there's so many. I don't know that there's a biggest one, right? Because I promise you, by the end of the day, I will have had a big life lesson, right? Because that's how I situate myself. But two things, and they are kind of for me tied together. I don't believe that everyone needs therapy. Because I don't know that everybody needs therapy, but I strongly believe that everybody can benefit from therapy. And so go get you some. Go get you some. Um, and also, in that, I can't outrun me. I spend a lifetime performing, living up to other people's expectations, wants, desires, being concerned with these phantom people, what will they think? What will they say? Well, if I purchase this Mercedes that I have wanted since I was 9 years old, then the people will be like, well, why is she driving that car? Well, how much money uh, she works at the University of Pittsburgh. Well, how did she get there? What is she doing? Who did, like, and so these phantom theys that I allow to keep me quiet, keep me down, not down, like sad down, but just like not living into the fullness of myself. And I didn't sleep for years. And when I tell you, Ian, I didn't sleep for years, I mean that I would dead dog tired because I work hard, right? I live a very full life. Okay. Shell's like my hashtag is I'm like Visa baby. I'm everywhere they want to be.
Please.
Please, right? And I get in my bed and then I just lay there and I toss and I turn and I turn and I toss and I toss and I turn and I turn and I toss and I toss and I turn because I can't outrun me. And at the end of the night, I am left to reckon with and then learn how to reconcile of it, right? Um, and so I realized I'm not well. I didn't realize I wasn't well. And I accepted, I said out loud, like one of the things I've learned about me is that I have to say things out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I can know that I know that I can know. I can write it out. That is my point of reconciliation is when I say out loud to me, to you, to the mirror, to the Lord, I'm not well. I'm not well. I am not well. And do I love me like I say I do? Because if somebody says, you like yourself, oh yeah, self-love, self-love. But if I really love me,
then I'm going to go get help.
Then I'm going to take care of me and I'm going to go get on this healing, perpetual journey. And it's been incredible. And so I just, you can't outrun you, right? And at some point, it's me against me. Like people put those memes up and they say that, but that's it, and it's real. But what you gonna do after you acknowledge that it's you against you, it's me against me? Because acknowledgement is just the first part. Action. I'm about action. And I'm like, and so sis, you got to turn that action on you. Be good to you. Be good to you. Be good to you in the way you were good to everyone around you. Because you deserve to be healed and to be healing. You deserve to be well. And as dope as I have been in this raggedy state, how much more will the Lord be able to use me as I'm healing and clear and sleeping well? Yeah.
That's powerful.
Amen. Amen.
Now, before we get into the last segment of the podcast, we're going to be touching on this week's Artist Spotlight.
Ooh.
The song At All by Moontown. I hope y'all enjoy.
Hey.
Find a way out from behind this bathroom stall, covered in such graffiti. As does God love anyone at all? And if he knows all of the freckles, all the hairs that are on my head, when they have the time to count those up, nothing better to do instead. This quiet solitude is all I give to myself anymore. I'm covered in blood dripping rose petals onto the tile floor. Whoa, you wouldn't recognize me if you saw me now. Whoa, you wouldn't recognize much of anyone at all.
Hope y'all enjoyed that snippet from Moontown, At All. The links to all of their artist pages will be in the description of this episode, wherever you're watching or listening. Y'all, if you hear a whirring noise in the background, There is a radiator that has burst upstairs. I hope you can't hear it, and I hope I'm just preaching to the choir, but if you can, I apologize. Nothing I can do about it. But anyways, getting into the second segment of this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the topic of financial wellness. So I leave the floor open to you, Dr. Moye.
Ooh, thank you, Ian. Financial wellness. Let me just say that sis is on a healing journey, so she is getting well. I have this really this relationship with money that is like, I remember being a young mom, um and having anxiety attacks at the grocery store, right? Because do I have enough money, like, to feed my family? Like, I just spent so much of my life being completely in a constant state of anxiety and worry about having enough to take care of my family, right? Um, which is probably not uncommon if you grow up in neglect, right? And not having enough. And so then what would happen is that when I would come into money, like, I would get my income tax return or a bonus or something, um, then um, I would overspend, like, with no accounting, no, like, I never, and I don't say this in with pride or arrogance, that I never balanced my checkbook. When you don't have money, you don't need to do that sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Because I mean, like, there's this much coming in, it's that much going out. Balance happens, right?
Exactly.
But when you get an overflow, right, that is when it's really helpful to understand how to balance money, to have some knowledge about how to save money, what you're saving for and towards. And so I have, like I said, at this big age, in like in the last 2 years particularly, I have just been so acutely aware of the large sums of money that I have been gifted with that are gone, right? Now, I own a home. My car is paid for. You know, I have a lovely home. It's comfortable for sure. We're not hungry, um, but also, right? I don't have the emergency savings. Like, and I'm an intelligent woman, right? I am working around a lot of intelligent people, a lot of savvy people, right? And I've always been in a position where I had access to people, right, who talked about savings. Like, one of the things that I am really proud of, Ian, is that I have had a 401k for all of my adult working life, right? Where I have peers and folks who don't have savings. Is it substantial? Who knows? But also it's something, right? And so there have been, because of being having access to people who know things, being a listener, being a learner, I have picked up on the essentials, right, of what it means to save, what it means to be prepared. And so I am literally, like, in the last 6 weeks, in it's so timely. Um I had mentioned I was facilitating a book talk, and I mentioned that a goal of mine was to spend less money, because I understood that so much of my spending was tied to feelings of not being enough.
Mhm.
If I have the right dress, if I have the right shoes, if I have the right accessories. Now, some of that, and like, I like things. I do. I'm very well put together. Sis is good, but also, right, I was trying to compensate for this not feeling enough.
To live above your means.
So you could even overcompensate within your means. I'm a thrifter.
Mhm.
Like, I'll go, and this is like, again, like, when I'm like, sis, you're not well, I get in my car and ride around to every thrift store in Allegheny County,
Retail therapy.
baby.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, my closets are beyond capacity. I've got clothes, shoes, jewelry, accessories, in every square inch of my personal space
Mhm.
and in many square inches of my basement.
Mhm.
Tub upon tub upon tub of clothes, stuff, tags, have like, and as I was talking about needing to spend less money, particularly on stuff, on the acquisition of stuff, a very dear friend of mine, oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
who is my colleague in the School of Education, gifted me with this incredible book called The Afro Minimalist. And it was like in sis had gotten in my head. It was like I was her as I was reading, what she was saying about like this, how much of our current behaviors are so intricately tied to how we've been raised, um, childhood. And it was like, yeah. I overspend, and while it is modest comparatively, right? I'm not in credit card debt because I've been in credit card debt, right? And had to work myself out of that. And been forgiven out of just as much of it. And so I'm always very acutely aware of like the line, right? I have a line. I'm like, you can't have more than a $500 balance on a credit card because you could pay off $500, but you can't pay off 5,000.
Mhm.
Like you can't do it, will take you forever to do that. So like you're not going to do that, right? So, but it's because again, I'm like feeling like I'm not enough. I feel like I got to prove something. And as I come into myself, as I become comfortable with who I am and what I have, right? I am spending less money. And so one of the things that I'm like challenging myself to do, like day by day, because sometimes it's too much to say, oh, I'm going to make this month long goal. I'm going to make this first quarter goal to save X amount of dollars. Like I am every day, I say, okay, like you went grocery shopping. So you've already spent for groceries. Because I do a lot of eating on the run, right? Because
Mhm.
I have a very busy life. Um, and it becomes a justification. I'll just grab and go, grab and go, grab and go, grab and go. And then I look at my bank statement and see how much money,
That you grabbed and went.
baby, right? I'm like, wait, wait. I mean, wait, you know better. Like you know better. And so while I believe that, people say you know better, you do better. I believe when you feel better, you do better. And I'm talking about like feelings of hopefulness, feelings of purpose, right? Something greater to look forward to that makes you feel better, like on the inside. And then that is what inspires you to do better. So I'm like, sis, like you want better. You feel better. You're healing. Like, so today, let's not go out to eat. Let's not go out to eat today. Okay. Right? Um and because I'm learning to be gracious with myself and forgive myself. Like I'm not saying, okay, so you didn't go out to eat today, so that meant, you got $20 that you should have at the end of the week. Let's get through today and let's, should the Lord give us another day tomorrow, let us think about what the day is going to, entail, and then let us make some decisions accordingly. Right. And so part of, for me, financial wellness is becoming, being very, being aware, being deliberate about my decisions, being thoughtful, like, for so many decades in, like, I didn't even think about my financial picture. I just didn't even think about it. Like, it just happens. Whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't happen, like, that's not the best way to live life. It's
Mhm.
a way to live life, and I've survived and dare I say thrive, but so much more, right? And so now I'm actually being thoughtful. I'm sitting with the thought of, what does it mean if I don't have some sort of nest egg? Like, the folks who write these columns say you need to have 3 months salary, blah, 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 blah. But these are also white men who take home the lion's share of whatever salary category there is to have.
Mhm.
Homie, y'all don't pay me enough in the current salary So ain't no way I'm gonna have 7 months saved up for reserve. I need to live today. And also, right? So and so it's about being thoughtful and it's about finding harmony, right? I have balance has a place, but in my life, I am thinking about harmony, right? Because balance says it's got to do this, and harmony says it can do that. It could be yes and. Two things can be true, right? And so while I may not earn as much money as I rightfully should, I may not earn as much money as I would like. I know that I earn a good salary. I know that, I have been blessed with an opportunity for me to teach. And so that is a supplement to my salary. I have a nonprofit organization. And so, people pay me to facilitate workshops and professional learning. You know what I mean? And so the Lord has gifted me with all of these incredible opportunities and gifts and skills to earn more money, to earn enough money. And so now I have an obligation, right? Again, to whom much is given, much is required. And so again, tying my idea of financial wellness back to my belief and following of Christ, right? If I have something left over financially, then I am able to bless someone else. And ultimately, Ian, I want to be a philanthropist. Like, you know, I don't know that I will ever be a Heinz or a Mick O'Hatton, and I'm not going to say that I'll never be, because maybe the Lord will do that for me if I do my part, right? But what I do know is that I desire to be a philanthropist, and the Lord has given me overflow right now today, even in spite of all of those things. And so I am being thoughtful about the choice I make today and how I might be able to use that overflow, that $10, which might not seem, people are like $20, but I work on a college campus where the Lord has placed me to intentionally cross paths with a lot of young Black children who $20 is a lunch that they might need. $20 is something from the store that they actually need. I didn't need Hello Bistro. I just wanted it. I got salad at home, right? And so, I think the other part of it I would say, Ian, is like not putting caps on what the bounty or the bountifulness can be, right? So, like I said, somebody shrug off $20 for lunch is someone else's do or die, right? And ultimately, I want to be in a position to facilitate someone else's wellness. I'm not a savior. I don't want to be. I would never put that weight on my. But I do want to be in a position to facilitate someone else's wellness, and so that requires me to be in a position of financial responsibility and wellness.
I
Yeah.
think the last thing I'm going to ask before we close off, what in your life caused the shift towards caring more about your finances?
I would say, Ian, I have been in this perfect storm, if you will, since probably literally October, November of 2023, where the Lord has really been trying to get my attention about my life, right? Because He sees my whole being. Um, and I've known that I am financially irresponsible, right? Because yeah, there's always the reality that it wasn't quite enough. But again, I live a life of overflow and abundance because that is what the Lord's desire for His children are. And so again, like there's harmony, there's a both and. I am also financially irresponsible, right? Because the gas that I spent driving around to every thrift store in the community, right? While I may have only spent $75 and taken home this big bag of stuff, there's also this emotional thrill that I have owned that I get out of being able to say, I got $100 dress for $2. There is something that fulfills inside of me. Says, get your life. Like, you know what I mean? And so, um, it was all, like I said, I was reckoning with all of these things at the same time. Like when I can't sleep at night because I'm worrying about how I'm going to pay off the student loan debt. That one I've already talked to the Lord about. There's a T-shirt that says, "Honestly, I've been forgave that debt." Like, but also I can't ask the Lord to bless me while I'm being irresponsible,
Mhm.
right? And so, it's like all just coming to hand. It's like, okay, so what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What are you going to do about it? And the first step, really, honestly, was getting into therapy. And then that has helped me to like, okay, there are all these things that I definitely need to get better at, that I want to get better at, but also I can't do it all at one time. And so as I am tackling this thing, it's making space for me to now start thinking about this thing, right? But it was the not being like, because I worry about money. I worry, like I was worrying about money. I'm a believer and a follower of Christ. I should not be worrying about money, especially when I live in abundance.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense, right? Um, but yet there I was every night unable to sleep because, Lord, like that, the forgiveness, the hope period is over, and the Mohella envelopes keep coming in my mail, and I don't want to open them because I don't want to see what they have to say, and my bathroom needs repaired, and the roof is gonna like, and then I get into this like all the things that are, and it already is, it's already okay, but I have some responsibility in that.
Your spiritual health, your mental health, and your financial wellness are all just intertwined.
All integrated. You I don't I have not been able to live a life in where one of those things is out of sync and the other things are good,
Mhm.
right? Um and I'm not talking about a mishap. I'm talking about out of sync, right? You're raggedy. That's a term I use of endearment for myself. Like, sis, you being raggedy, and it ain't nothing raggedy about the Lord's creation. So you're out of order, and you need to get it together, right? This is how, when I say the Lord talks, like this is how me and the Lord are talking, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm like, yeah, no, that's raggedy, and I want to have integrity, right? When I am sharing with someone, particularly the young people that the Lord has called me to, I my I got to be in order. I can't be telling you one thing and I'm doing something else. I cannot. The Lord won't allow me to.
Mhm.
Hmm. And so I gotta get this thing right, right, so that I can be prepared to help you get where you're going.
Before we close out this episode, is there anything else you want to get across to our audience?
Be good to you. Be good to you. Find the source of your joy, right? And not happiness. Happiness is temporal, temporary, and fleeting. Like joy is an anchor for me. I always have joy, even in the midst of, right? And so figure out what brings you joy, and engage in that, and then share it with the world. Because in sharing it with the world, you're actually refilling your own joy cup, right? And so do that. Be good to you. Love you. Like authentically love you.
I really hope everybody takes that to heart. That's some
Yeah.
excellent advice.
Amen.
Anyways, y'all, it's been another amazing week of Let's Talk Social Innovation. All links, Dr. Moye, will be found in the episode description where you're watching on YouTube or listening on any of our audio platforms. But everything else out of the way, I'm your host, Ian Kahende, and we are signing off. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.